The next function I want to discuss is DATEDIFF. DATEDIFF measures the difference between two dates. And the syntax asks you to give the date part, a starting date, and an ending date. And it calculates, so if we have DATEDIFF, month, order date, ship date, it's going to calculate the number of months between when the order was placed and when it was shipped. And this type of calculation is useful when measuring durations such as shipping delays, customer response times, production lead times, or the number of periods between events. So let's actually take a look at how this is going to work in Tableau. So I'm going to create two calculated fields. The first one is going to be called DATEDIFF, and it's going to be with a day, and I'm going to do DATEDIFF. The date part I'm going to use is day, and then I'm going to use order date and then ship date. Let's say okay, and now I'm going to bring in order date with right clicking and showing it discretely, and I'm going to bring ship date also to the rows and also display it discretely. And then I'm going to bring my DATEDIFF with the day and show it. Okay, and so here it says this happened 4 days later, but then here we go from the 4th to the 8th and it says 12. And so I want you to understand what is actually happening here. We're using sum of DATEDIFF. And so what this means is that there likely were 3 products that were ordered here. And in fact, if I bring product name into my rows, I'm going to see it, that there were 3 products that were ordered on the 1st and then shipped on the 8th. And that's where that 12 is coming from. Okay, so now let me create the second calculated field. And so let's call this DATEDIFF. And now let me call it with the month. And let me say DATEDIFF. Here the date part is going to be month. And then I'm actually going to switch the order because I want you to see what happens. So I'm going to say ship date, which I know happens after, and then order date. And then let me say, okay. So now let me bring here my calculated field. Let's take a look. So in many instances, we just get 0. We didn't have, this was ordered on the 19th and shipped on the 20th. But I want you to see that here, what is happening. So because of the way that I chose to put ship date first and then order date, we're going to get negative numbers. But I also want you to see here that, it hasn't actually been a full month. And so what you need to understand is that DATEDIFF is actually counting the number of boundaries crossed for that specific part date, right? Not exactly the elapsed time. And so here we've crossed back one boundary. We went from February and we crossed into a new month. Okay, I don't know that we have more than 1 month differences, but that's what it's doing. So now let's go back and talk about the final function that I want to introduce, which is DATEPARSE. DATEPARSE is used when your data contains dates stored as text rather than true date fields. And so in practice, DATEPARSE is most useful when you're importing databases where the data are stored as text. And so this often happens when the data comes from CSV files or external databases or spreadsheets or log files. And so the syntax is going to be DATEPARSE, the format that the data is in, and then either a string or the field that the data is contained in. Okay, so for example, if we said DATEPARSE, and then if our data had the day, the space, the month, and then the year written out, we would say, okay, we want you to parse it, and this is the format that the date is in. Here we have our year, and then dash, the month, /, and the date. And so we give that format here. And both of this would then return a date. And the way that it's displayed in Tableau is going to depend on how you formatted your date in the visualization. Taken together, these functions give us really a powerful way to control how time is manipulated within Tableau. And we can extract parts of a date using DATEPART. We can control the aggregation level using DATETRUNC. We can shift dates either forward or backward in time using DATEADD. And we can measure time intervals using DATEDIFF. Okay, and then finally, we can convert text to dates using the DATEPARSE function. Once you know how to manipulate dates using these functions, we can apply table calculations fairly easily. And so in the next video, we'll talk about how to build moving averages and other time-based calculations. And we'll apply many of these functions in the problem sets that I'm going to give you so that we can use them to quantify changes over time.